Greetings, Otaku Faithful. Thank you for joining me again this week. Once again, it's Larry Williams, OAW Commander-in-Chief, and I'm here to bring you yet again another month of Miyazaki movie review right here on Otaku Assemble! Weekly. As always, I'm here to bring you the latest in this week's month of Miyazaki movie review. Now, before I jump into this review, I do want to take this time to apologize for the poor quality in the OAW Grand Prix first round quarterfinals video. I did run into a couple of snags in both the production and in the post-production with the video editing, but rest assured I am currently working on resolutions to those issues, and hopefully the next round, the second round semifinals video, which will be up next Friday, or rather this upcoming Saturday, excuse me, this upcoming Saturday, hopefully by then those issues will be resolved. So I want to thank you all who just bared with me on that one, but I promise next vid the problems will be solved. Still working on that. But anywho, so with that out of the way, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to jump into this week's month of Miyazaki movie review, which is the critically acclaimed Academy Award-winning film Spirited Away. Now, I will be referencing the Wikipedia page for Spirited Away as I give you all a brief rundown of the film and the film's history. So, let's jump into this. Spirited Away, also known as Sentu Chihiro no Kamikakushi, which literally means the spiriting away of Sen and Chihiro, is a 2001 Japanese animated fantasy adventure film written and directed by Hayao Miyazaki and produced by Studio Ghibli. The film tells the story of Chihiro Ogino, a sullen 10-year-old girl who, while moving to a new neighborhood, becomes trapped in an alternate reality that is inhabited by spirits and monsters. After her parents are transformed into pigs by the witch Yubaba, Chihiro takes a job working in Yubaba's bathhouse to find a way to free herself and her parents and escape back to the human world. So that's a brief rundown of what the film is about, but I'm going to take a few minutes to actually elaborate on the plot a little bit more. So, as I just mentioned, Chihiro is a 10-year-old girl who is moving to a new neighborhood with her parents. What happens is that both she and her parents, they make a pit stop, and they make a pit stop and they go through this tunnel, which little do they know that by passing through this tunnel, they are actually entering the spirit world. What happens is that Chihiro's parents they stop off at a food booth, like a mini little restaurant, and they decide to, chow down on some food. Though they don't know that that is actually food of the spirit world, and that consuming it in such a gluttonous manner actually turned them into pigs. In desperation and in fear, Chihiro flees the scene and she crosses a bridge. On the other side, she finds a bathhouse, which is run by the witch Yubaba. And Yubaba, she's a very powerful witch, and she's kind of the authority figure in that area. She's the big boss. She's the who's who of spirits and monsters there. And Chihiro, in order to find out what happened to her parents, she actually finds an unlikely ally in Haku, who turns out to be Yubaba's apprentice. And while Chihiro is just meeting Haku, she is somewhat skeptical of him. She's not sure what to think of him. But at that point in time in the film, he's done nothing but help her, and it's Haku who actually instructs her into how to make it through the bathhouse, how to make it to the top floor where she can actually meet with Yubaba. And after meeting with Yubaba, that's when they make a deal. She decides that she's going to work in the bathhouse, and in the meantime going to try and find some way to free her parents, because without them she can't leave. And throughout the story, what happens is Chihiro, who is actually given the name of Sen by Yubaba, she's actually stripped of her real name, and she's given that name while she's working in the bathhouse. Throughout the story, Sin pretty much just, you know, goes about her business, you know, working in the bathhouse, and the whole time she's trying to figure out, you know, who can she trust, who can't she trust in the bathhouse, who's who are all these fantastical creatures, you know, how to restore her parents to normal, how to save them, if she even can. And it's actually a very wild ride. I will say that Spirited Away, you know, I did discuss this in my discussion of the week video when I mentioned the narrative archetype of the little girl in the fantasy world, which I do want to take the time out to address this, because a lot of people seem to get up in arms about the fact that I didn't mention young male characters in that scenario. But I want to go ahead and put everybody on notice about this. The suggestion for that video was addressing female characters, not male characters. So take a step back, get off your high horse a little bit, because a lot of people blew that whole thing out of proportion and kind of got up in arms about, oh Larry, you ain't talking about male characters. Male characters do the same thing. But male characters weren't mentioned in the suggestion. Just want to reiterate that one more time in case that's not coming across to you all. Male characters were not mentioned in the suggestion. The suggestion was supposed to discuss female characters in those scenarios. Calm the fuck down. But anywho, jumping back into my review. So, the thing with Spirited Away is that while Spirited Away does follow that narrative archetype somewhat, it's the events that take place in the film are not so easy to predict. I will say that when watching the film, like the whole thing with No Face, the character of No Face, I did not expect that to happen first time I saw this film. Also, the way in which Chihiro and Haku's relationship develops, I especially did not expect that. And yeah, a lot of people who have seen the film will say, well, Larry, it was kind of obvious that Chihiro and Haku would develop that type of young love relationship, but I didn't see that coming. I honestly didn't. I didn't expect that. So without giving too much away, that's pretty much the plot of Spirited Away in a nutshell. But like I said, of course, we are talking about the young girl who enters a fantasy world, and of course there are a bunch of fantastical characters. Like I mentioned, Yubaba. There's also her sister Zeniba. There's her baby, who I don't think was ever named in the film. And then of course we have Haku. We have was it, yeah, Jamaji? I think that was the name. No, Kamaji. My fault. Not Jamaji. Kamaji, the Boiler Man, who is actually, yeah, one of my favorite characters in the film. I think my favorite character is Haku, though, because when Haku turns into that dragon, I'm sorry, that was so badass. There's also I believe her name is, is it Lin? The pretty much Chihiro's, I guess you could call her somewhat of a surrogate mother, but also kind of like her supervisor, if you will, while she's working in the bathhouse. And then of course, let's see, there was the river spirit, who they thought was a stink spirit, which that's one of my favorite scenes in the movie. It was real cool. And then of course No Face, which didn't see that coming. So yeah, it's a very, I don't know, it's a very weird story, you know. Like I said, the whole thing with the narrative archetypes of the little girl in the fantasy world, they are at play in the movie, but the way in which things play out, it's really, I don't know, it's unique in a way, and you don't really know what to expect, you know, which is what I love about the film. The fact that, like I mentioned in that video, we as the viewers, we learn about this world alongside Chihiro. We don't know more than what she knows. Matter of fact, there are very few scenes in this film that don't include Chihiro. Very few. Most of the scenes, what we're seeing is what Chihiro's seeing. And so, and I always appreciate that type of narrative. I think in a way that's almost some of the best narrative is exploring these new worlds through the eyes of your protagonists, who, for all intents and purposes, embody the viewer. They are the window through which the viewer experiences these things. So okay, so next I'm getting into the writing and the dialogue. The writing is very good. Like I said, the story is very well written, and the elements at play in the story, I'm talking about the dramatic elements, the love story that I mentioned, the comedy, the action, which was another thing. I did not think this film would have as much action as it did. Now, granted, it's not an epic in the sense that how Princess Mononoke is an epic, or Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind, but there is action in the film, and when it hits, it hits. Classic example, the confrontation with No Face. Wow. That was actually a scene that will put you on the edge of your seat, which didn't, like I said, I didn't expect that at all. But the way in which all these elements work is very well done. It's very cohesive. And okay, the dialogue. Now, for the most part, I will say this: I can't say that the dialogue, I can't make the same comment about the dialogue in Spirited Away that I did in Princess Mononoke. Like I said, in Princess Mononoke, the dialogue of that film was very purposeful. It seems like every line was said for a reason. Spirited Away, it's not that the lines are not purposeful, but they're a lot more casual. Let me put it like that. The dialogue is very casual in this film, and you actually know, based off of the music cues in the film, when dialogue is being delivered that you really need to pay attention to. An example of this would be the scene in which Chihiro goes to Kamaji for help in trying to heal Haku, and when Lin shows up, Kamaji makes a comment to Lin about Chihiro and Haku's relationship, and there's a music cue in the background. That's a classic example of what I'm talking about. Throughout the film, the dialogue is very casual, but there are music cues that let you know when you need to be paying attention. So like I said, the dialogue is good, but it is very casual. Now, the voice acting, I will say I'm not too keen on the American or the English voice cast, if you will. I will go ahead and scroll down right quick to check the the English cast. Oh, I keep saying American, I mean English. The English cast. Of course, one of the first voices that I noticed was Jason Marsden as Haku. I instantly recognized his voice. Let me see, are there any other noticeable voices that I know of, just off the top? Michael Chiklis is Chihiro's father. Didn't know that. Did not know that at all. Who does Kamaji's voice? I'm curious. They don't, let me see. They don't seem to have it mentioned. Nope, they don't have it mentioned. Now, it's kind of funny because in the next section on the Wikipedia page, they mention, you know, the themes and the archetypes. And like I say, I discussed these archetypes in my discussion of the week video, so I won't go into too much depth about it in this one. Okay, the monomyth, that is one that I did not mention, which is the hero's journey, which actually one of you all in the comments mentioned that in my discussion of the week video, where you mentioned that the archetype follows the hero's journey, which is the monomyth. Of course, rites of passage, and of course, like I said, comparable to like Alice in Wonderland. Yeah. And then of course this film, just like Princess Mononoke, is heavily inspired by Japanese religion, Japanese culture, Japanese society. A lot of the spirits are, you know, spirits that exist in Shinto mythology, a lot of Shinto tradition, and then of course the whole idea of the bathhouse and how it's operated and how it's ran and all of that are reflections on Japanese culture and Japanese society. Okay, so I believe I was at my 15-minute mark not too long ago. Okay, so let's discuss the animation. Top class animation. Of course, for many of you all, you will remember that in my Princess Mononoke review, I talked about the quality of animation in that film. Spirited Away, just like Princess Mononoke, ups the ante. The animation in this film set a new standard for Japanese animation. So, once again, what Hayao Miyazaki has been able to do in Spirited Away is that he has continued this constant increase of quality in the animation that he's producing. With each film, he's upping the ante. He's setting a new bar. He's setting it higher and higher and higher. And this is a classic example of that. This is another great example. You will also see this. You will also hear me repeat this in next week's review, which will be Howl's Moving Castle, which was another film where, with the animation, he set the bar higher. He outdid himself once again. So, moving on to the music. This is another film where the music is beautifully assembled. Especially, I will take the time out to mention the theme song of this film, because I love the theme song of this film. It's called "Always With Me," and the Japanese translation literally means "always, no matter how many times." And it was written and performed by Yomi Kimura. Yeah, love the theme in Spirited Away. Absolutely love the theme. Fantastic, beautiful theme in this film. Okay, and so I'll wrap up this review with my overall rating. Like I said, this is a film that was critically acclaimed, highly acclaimed worldwide, and I would probably argue that this was the film that really legitimized Japanese anime as in the film industry, as far as Japanese animation being considered a legitimate form of cinema. I think this was the film that broke those barriers. I mean, like I said, you have films like Princess Mononoke, Castle in the Sky, Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind, all great films that were made before this one. But even with Princess Mononoke, there seemed to be this ceiling that Japanese animation outside of Japan could not break through as being considered a legitimate form of cinema. You know, now granted, like you know, in my Princess Mononoke review, I made the comment that if the Academy Award had the award for Best Animated Film back when Princess Mononoke first came out, that Princess Mononoke would have won. But the fact of the matter is, it didn't. And by 2001, 2002, they had it. They had, you know, the Academy Award for Best Animated Picture, and Spirited Away won. The first Japanese animated film to win an Academy Award of any kind. Actually, if memory serves me correctly, of any kind. But to have that as the best animated film of the year, that was huge. Because we're talking about the Academy Awards here, ladies and gentlemen. We're talking about the, for all intents and purposes, the criteria through which all of Hollywood is acclaimed. You know, that's it. That's their big, you know, their big deal, the big award, the grand show of them all. And if you have a film that wins an Academy Award, that's saying something. You know, that's a title that has prestige that you will carry forever. And Spirited Away won it. Not only that, check this out. This is something for you all. Okay, Spirited Away, not only did it win the Academy Award for Best Animated Feature, but it also won, like Princess Mononoke, I believe it also won Best Picture at the Japanese Academy Awards, right? But check this out. Spirited Away is the most successful film in Japanese history, grossing over $274 million worldwide. It overtook Titanic, who at the time was the top grossing film worldwide in the Japanese box office, to become the highest grossing film in Japanese history. The highest grossing film in Japanese history, to this day, has not been topped. That is huge. That is huge. And I wonder, okay, they don't list all of Spirited Away's awards on the Wikipedia page, but like I said, you know, in my personal opinion, this was the film that legitimized Japanese anime in the Western film industry. And I would also go as far as to say that I can't really say as far as the whole Walt Disney deal with the distribution, because technically speaking, Kiki's Delivery Service did that way back in what, 96, 97. So yeah, I can't really say that about Spirited Away. But I do know that Spirited Away did very well in the home box office, like as far as like video and DVD. It did very well, especially for Disney, who distributed it. And Spirited Away was actually, I will go as far as to say that Spirited Away was actually the film that made Disney decide to go ahead and invest in all of Studio Ghibli's films. Like after Spirited Away, they were like, you know what? This is something that's really that's really doing well, that's really hitting home, and this is something that we can definitely invest in the future, which I'm glad that they did. So with that said, I'm gonna go ahead, give you my final rating. Of course, 5 out of 5. This is a great film, and you know, one thing that I will say about this film that I couldn't say about Princess Mononoke, this is a kid's film. For all intents and purposes, there is some mature stuff that occurs in the film, but this is not a bad film for kids. Kids could actually sit down and enjoy this film also. So this really is like the family film. Like I said, can't say that about Princess Mononoke, because Princess Mononoke is so mature in its content. This family film, great for the family, 5 out of 5 beautiful films. So with that said, I'm gonna go ahead and wrap this video up. I want to thank you all again for joining me this week, and until next week, this has been Larry Williams, OAW Commander-in-Chief, signing off, and until next time, peace.